inviting people into a space where we're going to hold this story.
Love your art. Did you know a lot of the riders were actually women wearing beards?
Yes.
Which gives me such like Monty Python vibes. It's amazing.
Oh. What if Muppets did the Easter story?
If that's all we're looking for, that's what we're going to find. Yeah.
I'm looking for pie. You're traveling through another dimension, a dimension not only of sight and of sound, but of mind, a journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's a signpost up ahead, your next stop. Oh, wait, sorry, that was the Twilight Zone. This is another episode of Faith and Geekery. My name is Mark, and this is...
I'm Jen, and the Twilight Zone is awesome and epic. And have you ever been on the ride in Disney based on the Twilight Zone? So I was getting real vibes of about to be dropped in a massive elevator. I love that. That's brilliant. I'm Jen. Hello, and we are joined today by
Abbie. Hiya.
So
Hello,
lovely to have you,
welcome.
Abbie.
Abbie. Yes, indeed. And so we start off, as we always start, by asking, what geekiness have we been up to this week? Jen, what have you been up to?
Well, I have just realised, delightfully to just me, that I've been up to something that all begins with M, which is obviously the theme for my life this week. I saw A Midsummer Night's Dream that was a kid-friendly version. So it was like a first introduction to Midsummer Night's Dream, first intro to Shakespeare. And it was the best theatre I've seen in a long time, up to and including seeing Kenneth Branagh in The Tempest, which was awful. Sorry, Sir Kenneth, but it was awful. And I'd paid, it wasn't hundreds, but a lot of money for the ticket. And then we went along to this much shorter family-friendly version, and Midsummer Night's Dream. It was absolutely amazing. So I did that. And then this Sunday, I saw Metallica in London, the actual Metallica, and that was epic. They were so good. They didn't do Master of Puppets, which I actually cried about a little bit, but they did do an Ozzy tribute. They did a Black Sabbath tribute in the middle of Mashup, and that was just amazing. It was brilliant. And then recently, I have been planning for my upcoming house move and getting pretty geeky about being organised, and because normally I'm very disorganised, so that's bringing me a lot of joy.
So is that a sort of like a Sims kind of rearranging furniture-y things, or is it just clearing stuff out? Or
it's a cathartic letting go of layers of stuff is the polite word to use. That's not the word I used before when they came around and surveyed all of the stuff that they have to move. But it's a cathartic letting go of things, and I like that. And also maybe the things I'm keeping, putting them into some sort of order in some sort of box. I like the idea of that as well. So that's been bringing me a lot of stress, but also happiness.
is the stress that, once it's dealt with, will hopefully free you for the future, won't it?
Yeah, 100%. Like, it's worth it. It's worth it. Except, do you ever get there? Do you ever have a moment where you're like, oh, look, my life is organised and finally I can... Do you?
I think so. With clutter and stuff, yes. For about half an hour on a Sunday evening.
Yeah.
And then...
and then you
Every
turn around
Sunday
and you're like,
evening.
oh...
Well, maybe not Sunday evening.
Maybe not Sunday. Don't be silly.
Maybe a Friday. No, Saturday.
Mm.
Saturday night when I'm trying to avoid doing other things.
This is just a fantasy, but yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Fantastic. And Abbie, what have you been up to?
I've been doing several geeky things, as I always have. So I finished watching Widow's Bay, which I thought was absolutely great.
Yes.
I made the mistake of like entering into some kind of commitment to watch it with somebody,
Oh,
who then like, didn't come round reliably, at my
oh,
demand, and so I've been
jeez.
delayed watching the final few episodes,
Ah,
but we finally did. I stuck to my pact and we finally did get there, and I think it's been really fun, really consistent. Like I've really enjoyed it. And I hope that they like get on and make the next one, and it's not one of these things that
yes.
we have to wait, kind of 3 years for. So I watched that, and I went to see Supergirl, which is
Ooh.
not the best movie I've ever seen in my life, but
Mm,
there were things to enjoy about it. I love Millie Alcock. I love the side character Ruthie, and the actress that plays her. I thought were really the kind of high point of the film. I think like the plot wasn't brilliant, and some of the jokes didn't land,
mm,
but like I enjoyed the characters. I'd be happy to see more of them in the franchise. So it wasn't all bad.
Hmm.
nice. That sounds very cool. I love that you're committed to watching Widow's Bay with somebody else, and it's already on a weekly release schedule, so you're already having to wait week by week. That is proper
Oh,
commitment,
so
that is.
stressful. It's been so
Yeah,
annoying.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not much of a binger. I do like it when they make it come out every week so that you can,
yeah.
especially when it's something that it's a mystery and you need to think a lot about it. And sometimes when I'm feeling like super geeky, I do things like watch reaction videos and theory videos. And I like to have the
Nice,
time to do that in between
nice.
episodes and really like let it
Nice.
Yeah.
take over my life. So I do
Savor it.
prefer a weekly release than
Nice.
a binge watch.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
But yeah.
Tim has commented, I've just finished my to the fifth power, listen to
Fifth
Magnus
time.
archives, and prepping for Critical Role live this weekend. That sounds fun.
Ooh,
And Tim also
that
has
does
something
sound
to
fun.
share. He says, and the organising packing of life never ends, Jen. Well, in death maybe.
Yes,
Well, that's a bit
Jesus will
bleak.
make end. That was definitely, the promises of Jesus' kingdom. Thou shalt
Yes.
never have to pack another box ever again.
Well, he does talk
I
about
shall come
passing
and
over the
wipe
burden.
away all clutter. I'm
Just
pretty
as Sunday
sure that's
last.
what
Well,
it says.
like the sea in Revelation and the sea being turned to glass is the
Yeah,
kind of the
yeah,
removal of chaos and the potential of chaos for our lives. So maybe everything would just be
absolutely.
tidied for
It'll
Maybe.
us
just be,
and
it'll
we
just be
just won't be
gone.
burdened by it.
It'll be like having a 1950s housewife. That is, when I think of Jesus, that is the image that comes to my mind. So that makes total sense.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. Mark, what have you been geeking out about
Uh,
this week?
It obviously must be a theme. I've also watched Widow's Bay and got to the very end one, but
Wait,
I hadn't
you've
been.
only done it this week?
As in, I just got to the last episode this week.
This
Yes,
week?
yes.
Oh,
You see, because
I'm impressed that
I,
you
I
lasted that
wasn't waiting
long.
for other people. I was just wanting to watch it during the daytime because I didn't know where
Oh
it was
no,
going
I
to
remember
go.
you saying that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that is done. But I've been using EVA foam, so there's a bit of a sigh there because I've been creating a cosplay thing, and yeah, so just been using gluing and creating and otherwise, which will appear in a geeky gallery at some point. But
Why
yeah,
are you
it's not
sighing?
because it's taken ages. I'm making a
Oh,
chest
okay.
out of EVA foam and otherwise.
Is
So
this Iron Man or is this
a chest, as in a
oh a
luggage
chest?
chest
Gotcha.
for
Sorry, you the chest.
Rincewind, my
Yes.
Rincewind cosplay.
Yes.
So I have been making a structure that is going to be lightweight enough, but also sturdy enough to be pulled around Comic-Con as luggage. That is,
And carry our essentials.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been a bit of a conundrum to solve, but it's been quite cool and fun. I've also been watching. Again, it's on the evening when I kind of like pottering and pootling, and I've been stitching as well and bits and pieces. And so I've just had things to watch in the background, sort of thing, but some more attention than others. Hail Mary, the project Hail Mary was good. That did take a lot of my concentration, whereas Midnight Sky and Greenland Migration, which are like disaster movie sort of things of world
Brilliant.
ending and otherwise, which were both, I would sort of say, quite replaceable with each other. You just kind of swap one out for the other.
I thought the first Greenland was really like a good time, and the second one was really like bordering on a bad time.
Yeah, and yeah, Midnight Sky was it felt very samey and kind of like,
Samey.
yeah, I won't spoil it for folks, but yeah, it just was a bit like, yeah, world's ending, yeah.
Do you feel that is because it was bad film, or do you feel that is because often at the moment we're living through what could potentially be world-ending events in real life, so we've become slightly immune to,
I think
there's Donald Trump making another crazy decision and nobody's able to do anything about it.
I felt as if both films were kind of aimed at the wanting you to kind of think about our actions in the world, and and actually, so Jen's asked a question and she's walked off camera, so I'll answer. You are there, that's cool.
Sorry.
I was just answering your question, Jen. I feel as if it does kind of, both of them kind of give a nice voiceover of like, this is our challenge, this is our commitment to look after the world and all that kind of stuff, and done in, I think, one way. I think Greenland Migration did it better than Midnight Sky, but a part of it goes, well, yeah, I mean, it's big business, yeah, that's dealing with this. It's the billionaires who are dealing with, it's not the me recycling, it's I'm doing my bit, but it's the billionaires and otherwise. So they're going, so why, if you send this to the White House and various other places, then go for it. But
Yeah.
I just felt that the narrative was a little bit samey, a bit flat, and
Yeah.
and it was lacking hope, dare I say.
Yeah.
And one of them, again, won't go into it, but there's one bit where they go into the future, and as in, so the hope for the future is around one couple and a baby, and then they're going to go in, this is going to be a limited future. And so I was like, anyway, so I've been watching those sort of films whilst I've been cosplay, crafting and things into the night, and so that's been keeping me sane. But other than that, yeah, just been busy in life and otherwise, and life has been happening. So
I have been binging. I don't know if I was already doing this last week. Bridgerton.
Oh yes,
saucy Bridgerton, yeah, and that is still hitting that binge sweet spot for me at the moment. So that's
what series
opposite, isn't it?
So what series are you on?
3, my favourite series. So 4 was very good. I did enjoy 4, but 3 is my favourite.
I think I've only watched series 1. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, I also watched.
I've never watched a Bridgerton, but I'm
open
to being persuaded. I suspect it's not going to be my thing, but I could be persuaded.
Give it a go. Give it a go. Like, as long as you're not put off by the sauciness.
I think imagine Americans doing period drama, and so therefore
they're all British actors, but it is an American company making it, and it's very much about social justice, which is like, so it's such a sweet spot for me. It's like people breaking barriers. And there's loads of really like queer positive storylines, and it's a really positive kind of thing with a whole bunch of sex, which is, very pleasing to the eye.
I mean, I just think that the storylines and otherwise could easily be swapped for mobile phones and kind of modern life.
Yeah, but they're not though. They're writing them out
that's true.
Quills and parchment.
Yes. But I think that's kind
part of the romance, Mark.
I think that feeds the American kind of like, oh yes, we could do kind of
British, and we're drinking tea.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Definitely.
Yeah,
it feels
very much so.
twee.
It is. It's very American. It is.
Otherwise. Oh, we've got another comment from Tim. Americans doing period drama not about the Civil War. Yeah. That is quite true, isn't it?
That is true, because that is their period, isn't it? When you think about it, that's all they've got, really. The rest of it, they don't really want to have to talk about because it involves too much genocide. So it's that, and then they just steal it from Britain in Bridgerton. Yeah, I agree.
So is that everything regarding our hobbiness and geekiness for this week? If not, we're going to move straight on from. We haven't got a geeky news or geeky gallery this week, but that is a good excuse to plug our Discord server, where there should be a blurb, a link in the blurb to our Discord, whether you want to join it, follow us, or just follow our podcasts or wherever you're watching or listening. But our Discord is an opportunity to share bits that we can draw upon in the stream and podcast, as well as just to chat generally. We've been doing Wordle in Discord at the moment, and we're on like a 6-day streak. So there's
That is
various
awesome.
bits and pieces you can get involved with on our Discord to chat about stuff and about faith, as well as our geekiness, hence the title. But now let's move on to the quiz.
I got questions. The quiz.
What's the
So,
name of the podcast?
no, it's funny how we do. If you've got a bit of paper, pen, or writing implement, bit of wall, don't actually graffiti. And we're going to have 5 questions. Most of them are going to be multiple choice. And yeah, are we ready? Ready to?
Yes.
Question number 1. Today, on the 7th of July, is Ringo Starr's 86th birthday. But which series has he not voiced in? So I've done a voiceover in. So today, 7th of July, is Ringo Starr's 86th birthday. But which series has he not voiced in? Is it A, The Simpsons, B, Thomas the Tank Engine, C, Powerpuff Girls, or D, Scooby-Doo? So that's A, The Simpsons, B, Thomas the Tank Engine, C, the Powerpuff Girls, or D, Scooby-Doo?
Interesting.
Any comments? Don't give any answers away just yet, because we'll come back to
Okay.
those. Question number 2. Alfred Hitchcock was known as the master of suspense, but which film didn't he direct? Is it A, The Birds, B, The Terror, C, Psycho, or D, The Ring? Question number 2. Alfred Hitchcock was known as the master of suspense, but which film didn't he direct? Is it A, The Birds, B, The Terror, C, Psycho, or D, The Ring? It might be a bit sneaky, this one, by the way. Question number 3. In the song...
That makes me pat myself that you've just said that.
I just went off on a random one for this next question. There's nothing political or otherwise. Question number 3. In the song Mambo Number 5, how many women did Lou Bega mention, assuming repeated names are the same person? And there isn't any multiple choice this time. This is the only one that doesn't have a multiple choice. So that's in the song Mambo Number 5. How many women did Lou Bega mention, assuming repeated names are the same person? And for podcast listeners, what we've got is Abbie and Jen counting with their fingers and shimmying and trying to sing along unaudibly, which is no good for anybody listening.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away, though.
Absolutely.
Don't want to help out.
Thank you for not giving it away.
Taking it seriously, competing.
Absolutely. Thank you. Question number 4. What is the collective noun for pathologists? So what is the collective noun for pathologists? Is it A, a crowd, B, a body, C, a howl, or D, a wince? And so this is kind of commonly used and UK based. What is the collective noun for pathologists? Is it A, a crowd, B, a body, C, a howl, or D, a wince? Do I need to spell any of those for you, or are you okay?
No, I'm okay. Taking a guess. I've got no idea.
Final question, number 5. Wimbledon is currently on, but how many players in women's and men's singles take part? So it's the same number across both. But what is that number? Is it A, 32, B, 64, C, 96, or D, 128? So Wimbledon is currently on, but how many players in women's and men's singles take part? Is it A, 32, B, 64, C, 96, or D, 128? I've just seen Tim's comment of saying not a Midsummer Murders. Is that the... I don't get what that reference is. It may have been a
Is it
collective noun.
Bridgerton?
Oh, I didn't know if it was a collective noun for pathologists.
Oh, could be.
Not sure. Right. Have we got all of our answers written and otherwise? Are you
Yeah, but I
willing
don't
to...
think I've done very well.
Abbie, what about yourself?
I wouldn't say I'm that confident about my answers. But I don't think you're offering £1 million or anything, so I'm feeling
No.
quite relaxed
There's,
about
there's
it.
just kudos and to do reasonably well. So question number 1 today is Ringo Starr celebrates his 86th birthday. Which series was he not? Has he not voiced in? Does anybody want to guess, or shall I just give you the answer?
Well, I said Scooby-Doo, and that was because I know he's in Thomas the Tank Engine, obviously. We know that. What was the first one? I've forgotten the first one.
The Simpsons.
And I'm pretty sure he was in The Simpsons. And I
And there's
just
the Powerpuff Girls.
I really want him to have been in the Powerpuff Girls. That was just pure desire on my part. So I said Scooby-Doo. That was my reasoning.
Abbie, what did you put?
I was between Powerpuff Girls and Scooby-Doo, but I did say Powerpuff Girls.
One of you is correct.
Oh, yes.
The answer is that he did not voice in Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
And
He
in
was the Powerpuff Girls.
2014, he voiced the character Fibonacci Sequins,
Oh my gosh,
which I thought was pretty
What
cool.
a guy.
I'm so happy that I know that. That's brilliant.
Well, when I stumbled across that, I was like, that's going in. Question number 2, Alfred Hitchcock was known as the master of suspense, but which film did he not direct? A, The Birds, B, The Terror, C, Psycho, or D, The Ring? What did you put?
Well,
I
The
put The
Ring was
Terror.
directed by Gore Verbinski, so and he didn't direct the Japanese one.
So say that again, Abbie.
Sure. Well, The Ring was directed by Gore Verbinski, unless there's another film called The Ring.
I'm afraid
Which
there is
maybe-
another.
maybe
There is
there is.
another film.
No.
called The Ring. And it's
And
a
on
90.
Horror Week as well.
I know it is one of Alfred
Outrageous.
Hitchcock's one's 1927, and it's a boxing movie because it's about a ring.
I just assumed
Sorry.
that because I knew The Ring was a remake that he'd done the original.
The original was Japanese.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm afraid not. Sorry, I was being nasty. The
That is-
real answer is B, The Terror, and that was Roger Corman.
Brilliant.
So did you get that one right then, Jen?
I got that one right, yeah,
Oh,
but that
wow.
was just a pure guess, really. Yeah. I definitely knew Psycho and the other one, The Birds.
Question number 3. In the song Mambo number 5, how many women did Lou Bega mention? Assuming repeated names are the same. Any guesses?
I got
think
to
I've
8.
I got to 8, and I think I've massively underestimated how many women
You're
he managed
so
to
close.
offend.
It was 9.
Oh, that is close.
So it was Monica, Erica, Rita, Tina, Sandra, Mary, Jessica, Pamela, and Angela.
Can you name what they were doing?
No,
No, fair
but
dues.
I did write the rest of them out. So
Good, well
I
done.
gave you that. Not like one of our hosts who actually then had to Google afterwards because they'd forgotten exactly what the answers was. Anyway,
That is, yeah, that was a good moment.
4. What is the collective noun for pathologists? Is it A, a crowd, B, a body, C, a howl, or D, a wince?
Well, I went for body because that feels fitting somehow, but I don't know. That was a pure guess.
I also said body, because I do think that that's a kind of boring professional way to describe a group of professionals, rather than
Body.
because it's like fun and about corpses.
But also corpses.
Yeah, you're both correct. So a crowd is just a people, a howl is of werewolves, and a wince is of dentists. Which I quite like.
Dentists.
Yes.
A wince of well, yeah, because
Don't-
going to a
don't-
dentist.
So hold me this. I did Google and tried to get to the bottom of them, but obviously some of them have got some local variations and otherwise. But I tried
Yes.
to rely on more than just
No.
random bits.
Pathologists were harmed in the making of this podcast. But do you know what a group
No,
of
definitely not.
flamingos is? No. Do you know what a group of flamingos is called?
I feel as if I've asked this as a question
A
previously.
flamboyant.
Yes.
It's one of my favourite things ever.
Of course.
I used to, when I was young, I wanted to be a pathologist when I grew up.
Nice. Because
But
of the
that's because,
corpses.
well, no, it's because I wanted to be Scully from the X-Files, isn't it?
Oh,
But that's
I
not a
love
real
her.
job.
Oh,
So that was the closest that I was going to get. And
was
I almost made
pathologist.
it to being a pathologist.
It would have to be a paranormal pathologist, which I don't think is a thing. I'm not sure that's a real thing in the
No, I
world.
don't think, I don't, I mean, I
Spoilers.
think if we have got a Fox Mulder and
Sorry,
Dana
kids.
Scully doing those jobs, I think we're paying them too much and we need to
Yeah,
defund them.
yeah, that's true, and spend that money more wisely. Yeah, but there is a part of me that wishes we
Down
did.
with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like there is a part of my soul that really hopes somewhere in some room there are people doing exactly that.
Good. Should we do the last question? Wimbledon is currently on, and what's the number basically of participants in the singles? Is it A 32, B 64, C 96, or D 128?
No idea.
Right, well, I went for 64 because I thought you might
Me
be doing like
too.
a really tenuous Ringo Starr connection. And
I
that
didn't
was
even do
all I
that.
based it on.
I just did the middle one, like the toilet you pick when you've got a choice of cubicles. The middle is what I went for there.
The answer is 128.
Oh, damn it.
Which I thought
Never
was
choose the last toilet.
okay. I think that's too
True
much
though.
information.
It's
So,
true.
what scores did you get, folks? Whether that's
3.
in the room here or
Oh, I
leave
don't
a
even
comment.
know. Like one?
Well done on your one though.
Well done on your one.
Yeah.
And
Normally I
folks,
get
just
0, so
folks, just leave it as a comment or in the Discord later on. Just your quiz. But that for now is the quiz. So tonight we have done our quiz, we have chatted, and now we move on seamlessly to our conversation of the hour. And
yeah,
Abbie,
I think you need to do it in
go
a
on.
much creepier voice than that, Mark. Sorry. I think, yeah, maniacal laughter, or this is the moment you start to go.
Now, ladies and
Yeah,
gentlemen,
thanks. Yeah, that's better.
is that better?
Kind of, but don't go
I'm
creepy in a different way.
Terrified.
Yeah. So I was then going into my death voice of Harry Potter. Oh, sorry, Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Terry Pratchett. Hello. Yes. We are now to talk about horror. So, Abbie, where do we begin? Do we kind of launch into kind of what started you off on that journey of horror, or is there one that you just want to run with, or what got you into horror as a genre?
Well, I think I probably started watching horror at sleepovers, when we were
Yeah.
probably watching films that we weren't quite old enough to watch, although not in a kind of like safeguarding way, just in a kind of like somebody's older brother had got it for us way.
Yeah.
And I remember finding them like genuinely unpleasant, terrifying, would keep me awake for like nights and nights afterwards. But there was something about the thrill of it that kind of made me keep going with it. And I think through university, I was a bit tougher, but I did have a flatmate that I used to watch them with who used to come and sleep in my bed after we'd watched one because she couldn't sleep by herself. But I think
Yeah.
the kind of the sort of the thrill of, the terror of it and the kind of euphoria of the survival, I think got me really hooked on them. And I think they are quite a kind of, they're very like geeky films. There's subgenres, there's tropes, there's kind of rules about who survives and who doesn't. There's kind of franchises that span loads of different films. Like it is kind of a whole world to kind of dive into. There's always more, like there's always more horror to watch. So it just kind of my love for it just kind of kept going and going and going. And I think these days I do really long for a film that terrifies me, and they come round once in a while. I'm not kind of terrified all the time anymore, but I really long to be, kind of have that thrill of, kind of a really huge jump scare or something that makes me go a bit like, oh, am I going to get murdered in my car?
When
But
was the last
so
time
I'm
it
like,
happened? What was the last one that got you like that?
I think so. There was a jump scare in Obsession that, like, I I think that is quite a scary movie, but it's mostly not a jump scary movie. But there's a jump scare in the middle of it that I think I just kind of like settled into like how great the movie was, and I was really enjoying all these like absolutely dreadful things happening to them all, and just how kind of gory and amazing it all was. And then in the middle of it, there is this huge jump scare, that honestly I physically jumped, and
Nice.
and that was like quite a thrill really, because that doesn't happen. Because I think like the more horror you watch, the more you kind of just see these things coming, and you think, oh, it's
Yeah,
gonna happen, there it is, or that was quite a good one. But like for it to make me kind of viscerally react these days
actually
is
out of
pretty
nowhere.
rare.
That's awesome. I guess if you're really used to knowing how to read the genres, as it were, like how to read the what's coming up, if you get used to the formula of horror, then you're gonna not have the same. It's not gonna have the same kind of impact. Like Mark watching Widow's Bay and being actually scared is maybe an indication that horror's not something that you've engaged with lots and lots. Is that fair? Do you think that's a fair kind of thing to both of you, I guess?
I was going to say, I don't mind. I don't do horror well. I think I'm more
Yeah.
likely to. That is me looking after myself, watching it during the day. But during like a horror kind of suspense bit, I will just go and put the kettle on. Not likely to drink a cup of tea. I'll just go and put the kettle on just to
Just
kind
go
of.
and do something
Well, no,
else.
I'll remove myself out of the room and we'll stare at the freezer for a minute, or to get
I
nice
think
volley out.
Widow's Bay
But
was
just
quite scary though. You know, for
yeah.
There were
somebody that says
definitely
they don't like
moments.
horror, you've
Yeah.
definitely been watching some horror.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
I
yeah.
Yeah,
think,
full on.
and maybe it doesn't have the same kind of intensity because it's not in the cinema, and it's, you know, when you're kind of watching an episode rather than a whole film, they're not kind of trying to kind of keep the tension for that long. And it was a comedy as well.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some like scary moments, like that one where he was like chasing her around town with the whatever, you know, the boogeyman one. That
He
was
just
quite
kept appearing
scary.
in windows and doors. That was
What
brilliant.
what a guy. Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved
Yeah.
him.
Actual
Yeah.
spoiler.
Oh yeah, actual spoiler. Yeah, I think, you two I think are the last to watch it of everybody in the world. So now that you've done
Yeah.
it, everybody else will have caught up. Yeah.
Well done, everyone. So, Abby, in regards to kind of horror films, would you go for? Does it matter what genre or what kind of how polished? Would you go for like a nice, like well polished, kind of big blockbuster, or are you more likely to go for the kind of is it the B movie? You know, those kind of
The like
uh,
Hammer horror stuff.
yeah, kind of a bit more
Well,
slapdash.
I love them all. I think horror as a genre is quite kind of big on sort of exploitation cinema. So you know, it sometimes is kind of exploitative of like has been exploitative of people in the past, but kind of exploits like trends. So I think like so you do get lots of very samey horror films come out when there's a trend, you know, when there's a film that's done well, you'll get a bunch of kind of B movie remakes. Um, and you know, so the shark exploitation genre, I think, was a massive kind of thing. Like we've
Yeah.
had so many shark movies. We went through a whole bunch of shark movies in a really short space of time because it was kind of exploiting the trend of it. And I like the good ones. I like the good, you know, high budget, amazing effects, you know, those ones. There's a bunch in the middle that I think I could take or leave, you know, where it's kind of big studios turning out very samey things, you know, just for profit. But then if you kind of get down the other end, you know, if like once you get to kind of you know, Sharktopus 5 and Avalanche Sharks and Shark Exorcist and House Shark and, you know, all that stuff.
Sharks
Like
fall
you're
in love.
normally talking about like low budget movies made with love, you know, just kind of with the most ridiculous plot lines by people that just like love the genre. And that's always like a good time. So I really don't mind, you know, and some of the low budget horror films, you know, like Obsession was made with, I think, on a budget of less than $1 million, and it's an
Wow.
incredible movie. So the big budget doesn't always buy you the good scares, you know, and some of the real kind of cult classics like things like Let the Right One In and that kind of thing have not
Oh,
been big budget
scary.
horror films,
Yeah.
the ones that have really stood the test of time. Um, yeah, but if I'm watching a horror film, unless it's like an absolute betrayal of a franchise that's really dear to me, like I'm
Yeah.
normally having a good time.
Yeah. There's something to love about all of them in different
Hmm.
ways. Yeah. Is there something about the sorts of horror that we're going to engage in and the sorts that we can't engage in order to keep ourselves safe? Because I'm thinking, like, for example, my dad is a fan of mystery, is a fan of horror, and when we were inappropriately young, would be showing us, Demon. What's the Night of the Demon? That's like such a classic to me, and I love it so much. Properly terrifying, and it's got trains. It's brilliant. It's really good, but really scary, and just amazing. And he loves that. And like Alien is like, I think probably horror in
Amazing.
space. I think you could classify it
It
as
is
that. It's definitely
aliens
jump scare
horror.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he like, but he went to see The Exorcist when he was a young person and had to go back to the cinema like 12, 13, 14 times until he could sleep again because he just couldn't sleep. And the only way he could figure out how to do that was like being able to just watch it and watch it and watch it, exposure therapy until he got out of his system. And I remember seeing a trailer once for, I think it's called The Road. It had Viggo Mortensen in it. I'd never actually seen it because I saw the trailer and I had a nightmare about it. I didn't need to see the film. And I knew that that was going to be. So there's some horrors that I'm like, yeah, I'm there for, and some like, do you ever experience that? Is something that you've ever found, or what's that about? Like
I
what
think
is
there's
going on with
like
horror that taps into something deeper for us?
I think horror is, I mean, the reason that things are scary is because they're kind of designed around our kind of like deepest fears, aren't they?
Mm,
Like, and sometimes it's really obvious things, like our kind of really sort of innate fears about, something eating you and,
yeah,
being murdered and that kind of thing.
yeah.
But sometimes the real villain in horror movies is things like grief or it's child
Mm,
abuse or an obsession like the big bad monster in obsession is love and the like terror of loving
mm,
somebody, and especially kind of
yep.
unrequited love or being kind of responsible
Mm,
for somebody's happiness and that kind of thing. So they're
mm,
scary because they know what they're doing with our
mm,
real feelings and our real fears in real life. I think and some people I think just don't enjoy the experience of being scared. Like there's some people
mm,
that would never go on a roller coaster because the kind of
mm,
thrill of it is just not there for them. That it's all
mm,
unpleasant and there's no kind of
mm,
payoff. Like I think it is
mm,
a certain kind of person that kind of wants the thrill of being scared.
mm,
I
mm,
think there are like people who have particular triggers, and the triggers that can come up kind of any time, like people that don't want to see sexual violence
mm,
depicted, or people that don't want to
mm,
see particular kinds of gore, or people that
mm,
don't want to see particular kinds of characters die, that kind of thing.
mm.
I think I would commend to people a website called Does the Dog Die? Which I think was made for people like me who really don't want to see the dog die. Like murder as many human children as you like, leave the
Save
dogs
the dog.
alone. It's called Does the Dog Die? And you can search for the triggers. You can either look up a
Brilliant.
film and have a look at the trigger warnings for it, and it'll be really specific.
That's
Or you can kind of
excellent.
search for triggers and it will tell you kind of like films to watch and films to avoid. So I think if you
Mm,
know that, and not just horror films as well, and
yeah.
kind of TV series. So I think if you know that there's something in particular that you really, really don't want to be in the cinema and be kind of blindsided by in a film that's not
Mm,
obviously about that, um, then I think it's a really great website, and I use it a lot for. So I've got a friend who loves horror, kind of spooky demon ghost horror, really
mm,
has not got the stomach for gore. And
mm.
just sometimes we'll be seeing a film that we think is a spooky ghost film, and suddenly like somebody's having
It's
their face
not.
ripped off, and he can't take it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I do kind of look up on those things, if we're thinking about
Mm,
going to see something, I kind of look up, kind of how gory is is this?
Mm.
You know, is there like how much injury detail are we going to see, and can he handle it?
Absolutely. That's all. I love
Um,
that website. Do you know what? As you were talking, I don't think I've ever thought of horror before being, and that's daft I've not because it seems obvious now, but almost like Jungian. Like it's got those tropes, hasn't it? It's got those images. It's got those. What does he call it? Like, what does he call it? Like, it's iconography, isn't it? That sense of this is this part of our psyche and it's represented by this, which he said shows up in dreams. But if you take it, more broadly, actually it's just about seeing things in day-to-day life and understanding that subconscious part of ourselves that we don't name, that shadow part of ourselves that's just there in all of our subconscious drives. And horror really kind of, maybe that's why some horror you're fine with and some horror is just hitting so close to home because that's what's living there in your subconscious anyway.
I think horror is often about like kind of social fears as well. Like often
Mm,
the kinds of horror movies that we're seeing will reflect the kind of like the fears of the people. So like I mean
mm,
like we've had loads of AI horror movies. Some of them are
mm,
good, some of them are terrible. I'm really a bit bored
mm,
of them by now.
mm,
But so about 18 months ago, there are a bunch of horror movies that came out that were all about women being forced to give birth to like essentially like monster demon babies. There was the
mm,
first Omen that came out, and it was followed up really quickly with a film called Immaculate that everybody said
mm,
was like blasphemous and offensive, which is a really great way to market a movie. So I went to see it. It was great. But they were two films with kind of different premises, but were both about kind of women being imprisoned by
mm,
religious groups and
mm,
being made to give birth to some version of like
mm,
a demon or a monster or something that they had not
mm,
chosen to. And it
mm.
was, clearly really directly related to, all the stuff going on with women's rights in America and across the
Absolutely.
world, and the
Bodily
kind of and the real
autonomy.
fears that like women were
Mm,
feeling. So I think sometimes when you get a whole spate of a horror films that are about like a particular thing,
mm,
it is kind of picking up on the kind of the consciousness of the people. And I think people don't often think of horror being a genre that's particularly progressive, but
mm.
there are a lot of really, really progressive horror films out there. Things like
Yeah.
Get Out, that's all about kind of black experience and the presumption of kind of white,
Mm,
kind of innocence.
mm,
Films like His House that was about the immigrant experience.
mm,
They are often kind of raising the kind of horrors of injustice, through the
mm.
much more fun horrors of like, demons and ghosts and murderers.
Sinners is popped into my mind when you were talking, which was quite explicitly about racial injustice in America and particularly the southern states. But I think as well there is something about a lot of the horror that when I think of the horror that I watched when I was a teenage girl, was based around violence towards women and girls. And that being something, and that's why we watched it, because that was an experience that we were struggling with, becoming women in a world where it wasn't safe to be a woman. And what does it mean to fear men generally, hashtag not all men, but yes, it is kind of all men because you have to operate in that way. Like how can you be safe when the extreme is the guy in the mask is going to be hid in your cupboard, which is why I was always very grateful for franchises like Scary Movie that you could do the horror and that was really helpful and cathartic and then you could laugh at it and that was empowering. I liked both of those. I liked the original Dawn of the Dead and then the remake of the Dawn of the Dead, which I think is 50,000 times scarier, and I also like Shaun of the Dead. Like I like the contrast and the balance that offers.
So the women stuff I think is really interesting in horror films because there's a whole bunch of these kind of rape revenge horror films that I think
Mm,
kind of claim to be kind of progressive, but like clearly
mm,
weren't.
yeah.
And I think some of them, probably Last House on the Left is the most progressive of all of them because it's
Mm,
kind of about, it is about is kind of revenge and the consequences of revenge.
mm,
But I think there's there's a whole trope of the final girl that I think when it first emerged actually was probably quite a step forward for women, in the sense that like there was this trope of the final girl who was going to survive the movie, and it was normally a kind of stabby, you know, kind of penetrating with a knife type of movie, and she often survived by becoming the penetrator and the stabber
Becoming
and
the
kind of
one,
defeating
yeah.
the villain, which is very like myth of redemptive violence, but you know, these are violent
Mm.
movies, you know, and I
Yeah,
think we just have to not take the
that's the
myth of
bag.
redemptive
Yeah,
violence to heart too much. But
yeah.
like as time has gone on, I think lots of films have really started to kind of dissect the trope of the final girl and kind of play with it and like move it on. And you know, so for
Mm.
example, in Get Out, the black man in the movie, who would traditionally be the kind of aggressor in a horror film,
The bad guy.
becomes he is in the final girl role,
Mm.
and the person who tries to claim the final girl
Mm.
role is a white woman who is
Mm.
the person that's, you know, the villain of the movie, really, or one of the villains of
Mm.
the movie.
Actual
And it
spoiler.
kind of it came out a while ago. This movie came out
Okay,
a
that's
while
fine.
ago. But it becomes a kind of critique of the kind of presumed innocence of white
Mm.
women against
Mm.
black men. So I think there's quite a lot of films that have kind of, you know, done much more interesting and much more kind of thought-provoking
Mm.
things with the kind of tropes that I think, you know, originally were quite exploitative against women.
Mm.
And you know, the
Mm.
horror as a whole genre has not escaped its kind of exploitative nature. But there's
Mm.
certainly, you know, there's quite a lot of queer horror and kind of, you
Mm.
know, really kind of justice focused horror, you know, kind of, as me and my friend call them, movies with themes. You know,
Mm.
we'll say, oh, it has some themes.
It's got a theme to it,
You know,
this
and
one.
yeah, it's doing themes. You know, and those are, you know, the best of horror is that. I mean, the best of horror is the kind of something that gives you the scares and the thrills, but also it
Mm.
offers you something more profound and makes you
Mm.
care. And you know, and ultimately, like, survival is not just about like doing some really good stabbing. It's about, you know, kind
Mm.
of love and courage and self-sacrifice and all the things that we ultimately all want our happy endings to be about. You know, and I do love a
Mm.
horror film where loads of terrible things happen and the ending is also
Mm.
terrible. Like, I'm not against that.
No hope.
But like the best of the genre is where it's kind of, you know, there's a kind of something underlying it that's deeper and
Yeah.
kind of more human than just kind of
Mm.
loads and loads of really worthwhile and fun gore.
Mm. That's awesome. I love that so much. I do have another question and thought, but Mark, did you have a ponder? You looked
Yeah,
ponderous.
no, I mean, it's just interesting because, you know, you could almost kind of copy and paste out you can remove the horror genre and replace it with another vehicle to explore those themes. And maybe I hadn't
Mm.
really kind of considered that, you know, it's just another way of exploring through the extremes of humanity or the lack of humanity, that you can kind of explore those themes that can kind of be still quite heartfelt and moving, even if you have a aorta being, you know, sliced and stabbed or otherwise. You know, it's just like, oh, good. You know, I think I am so kind of what's the word? I remember being brought up with, like, is it the snow beast or something like that, and going to my grandparents and sat huddled on a settee, and my brother and sister going, oh, can you see the feet under the door? Is that the snow beast? And being absolutely petrified, going up to sleep at my grandparents, and they're going, oh, can you hear that? The dog's barking at the beast. He's coming
It's
across
the
the
snow
field.
beast.
And then kind of going, oh, dog's gone. And I
I've
remember it was
never
like,
seen the Snow Beast, but I
yeah.
quite want to watch the Snow Beast now.
I think it was like a
I'm scared
crappy
now.
B movie from like the 70s or 60s or something like that. But I remember those sort of things, and that for me terrified me at night. You know, and so kind of, and my siblings were not helpful in the slightest. But then
But
again,
I think if you've watched Widow's Bay, you're tougher than you think you are. And
Oh yes.
I think, you know, like, you're like on a journey to like getting there.
To true
Like, and
horror.
Widow's Bay is properly scary. It's not like
Yeah.
light touch. It's, you
no.
know, like, it's like ghosts that come into your house, and you know, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
And actual spoilers, the last episode is the scariest of all, in my opinion, because it's the stuff people do to people, like is absolutely
Oh no,
terrifying.
that bit with the naughty book where they walk into the sea, that's bad.
That is
Yeah.
Because
bad.
they're doing
There's a
scary
number of bad
faces
things.
as well.
They are. Oh, I love that. I love it when it flashes away and flash back to it to the scary faces. That was brilliant.
I think
Um,
I don't like the
I
way that it sorry,
no, go on.
go on. All I was going to say is I
No.
don't like where films tweak what you're watching, and therefore you're assuming it is reality, and then it isn't reality. As
Oh,
in,
I love that.
I don't like that because I'm just like,
Oh,
I
well,
like a
love.
kind of unreliable
I was
narrator.
yeah, I
just
don't
gonna
like that.
say, I love an unreliable narrator. I love it when you
I
No,
get to
do
the
love an
end of a film
unreliable
or a book and you're
narrator.
like, everything that, because that, and then it teaches you what being gaslit feels like. I think it's an impact, and that's what I was gonna
yeah,
say. I find horror an empowering genre when I've got the stomach for it. I love gore. I'm terrified of like ghoulies and ghosties and demon things. So that's one I'm scared, and jump scares I love in a good way. The other one is like feels proper fear, that feels like deeper down, kind of touching something deeper down. And one of the things I know from my other role is that people who have experienced trauma, sometimes significant trauma, will be drawn to things like true crime podcasts they're pretty scary. I think, for me they sit quite happily in the horror
I
genre
think
because
that's
they're
more scary. Like
yeah.
I don't want to be scared by things like I love a film about a murdering demon ghost, like rampaging through our house because it's not a problem I'm gonna have.
That's
But
never gonna
like
happen. You said that
but
to
like
Abbie, it's listening.
like rapists and murderers, they're real.
That's a real
Um,
thing. Yeah. And there
yeah.
is something about having seen trauma up close and experienced it and embodied it. There is something cathartic about the activation your body feels through a third person. Like there is something about that can be weirdly healing, and that's how I find horror genre generally. I find it to be an empowering, weirdly healing thing because you can see it up close and survive, and really that's all that
I think
we're trying to do.
there is there is some evidence about people that kind of like habitually watch like horror movies have more preparedness for crisis. And I
Absolutely.
don't know whether that's like correlation or causation, kind of people that are like tough enough to watch horror movies are kind of tough enough for a pandemic. I really don't know, but
Oh,
there's something about kind of rehearsing those emotions in a space without real peril that gives you a sense of preparedness for the kind of the reality of those emotions.
I
But I
think
think
it's
there's also something really like less fun about people who have been through trauma and kind of seek out kind of more extreme kind of experiences
mm,
because they've spent so long kind of like deadening down their responses to
mm,
things that they kind of need
mm.
quite an extreme experience to kind of feel alive.
To feel
Um,
anything
so
that's not disassociation. I think it's for me, having grown up on zombie films, for example, me and my brother have a plan for the zombie apocalypse, which, you
nice.
say is never going to happen, but nobody actually knows that. I've watched The Last of Us. That cordyceps, that's a real thing. So we've got a plan. And I'm not
Good.
in any way going to survive an apocalypse in reality, but I think there is something about genre that engages because it's engaging with the deeper. It's like other forms of art really because it's engaging with the deeper parts of us. It can become formational for our inner framework. So if our inner framework is our survival technique is disassociation because of the stuff that we've been through, then it kind of cuts through that, doesn't it? It doesn't allow us to use that as a coping mechanism in that moment. And I don't know, for me,
Zombie
I hear
films are
that.
like, I think zombie films are about a really kind of deep fear about like what our kind of base desires really are and what we would
Yeah,
be if we were kind of reduced to those, or if our loved ones were
yeah,
reduced to those. That
what
kind
choices
of,
we'd make.
yeah, that kind of loss of humanity, but that kind of also like fear of our kind of our deeper selves. Like that, I mean, that's why
Absolutely.
zombies are scary, right? I mean, like nobody
They
wants to
are.
get eaten, but would you rather get eaten or would you rather be reduced to like that kind
Through
of
eating.
animalistic.
So- Go
I
on.
think as well it is because you are probably going to be eaten by your loved ones. So there is a lack of safety in the basic, and a lot of good horror plays on that, right? Like if actually what we assume is safe isn't safe, what does that leave us with?
Yeah,
Like
they
if
always
actually
come
the
and get you
people
in your toilet and in your bed and in your
you're asleep at
house,
night and then there's the little girl
and
next door that you
and
look
they're
after
your
every day.
children. Yeah,
Yeah,
like yeah, it is kind
exactly.
of
Yeah.
you know, our fear that the things we think are safe are not really safe, and that the people we trust can't be trusted.
And the characters are disempowered. They're taken to a place of disempowerment and then find ways to feel empowered, the ones that manage to survive, if any do, you know. And I think, you know, that kind of horror of the what's the horror genre where there's not even a narrative, like it doesn't make any sense, and it's like it's very, very like the whole thing's uncomfortable. That's
That's
something else. But
live TV, isn't it?
just live TV,
Just,
that's
Oh, like
watching
kind of
Donald Trump
things like
argue with FIFA.
Skinnamarink and that kind of stuff.
That kind of
I do.
thing, that
I
kind
have to
of
say, I do like things to happen in a horror movie if it's all
it's got to be a bit
vibes
of a
and like,
narrative.
yeah,
Yeah, 100%. But I think that like if you've got a narrative and that narrative is working towards survival, there's a sense that in our most disempowered parts of ourselves, even there, we can find empowerment and survival. I don't know. To me, that speaks
yeah.
of kind of good
And like,
things. I like it.
and loads of horror films are ultimately against like good and evil and the kind of costliness of that battle. You know, like that's what The Exorcist is about. That's why it stood
It
the test
is.
of time. And like it's like, yes, it's about the girl who like whose head spins round, and you know, like I'm into that. But it is more profoundly about absolutely everybody else in the room except her. That it's like it's a film about the priest. It's the film about a crisis of faith. It's a film about what he's willing to do to save somebody that he's never met, and it's about grief. And I think it's an incredibly profound movie, and it does the scares, and that's why it's still like iconic, and that's why it's
Yeah.
still scary. Like it's not
Yeah.
scary because of the effects, it's scary because of how it kind of plays into our kind of like our deepest longings and our deepest fears. And because
I
their
would
head spins round.
And it's awesome. I would love to talk about how we tell our children horror stories from a very, very young age. How actually most fairy tales are actually slightly pretty horror stories. Like we like a lot of songs that we sing to them are about, you know, people getting their nose bitten off, and you know, like a lot of stuff that we give kids,
what are you
like all of
singing to your kids,
Disney.
Jen?
Sing
Well,
Song of
so
Sixpence.
Oh,
fairy
Then she gets
tales
her
were
nose bitten
kind
off
of
at the end.
that's true.
fairy tales started as like morality tales, didn't they, to kind of scare children into behaving themselves. But that is where horror
That's
originated as
horror.
well.
Yeah.
That horror originated in the kind of 20s and 30s, where to get around censorship rules, you could make like educational films. And so there was a whole industry of making educational films that were about like accidental pregnancies, and what happens if you go out alone at night, and what happens
That's
if you take
brilliant.
drugs, and all
That's
that kind of thing,
brilliant.
because it was a way to make these kind of, you know, what, you know, were ultimately called kind of like video nasties. You know, they kind of, that was how they got to make horror, by making it
Wow.
pretend educational.
That's
So like
brilliant.
horror and fairy tales are all the same thing. Like they're all trying
Same
to like
route.
teach us a lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I love it.
And at that base level, isn't it, is that it helps us to reflect on mortality. It helps us to empower us, as you've said already. It is there, they are there as like to go on an adventure. I know it's not the usual lovely kind of hero narrative, but it kind of does kind of tick those boxes, and you eventually do come out hopefully at the end, or it leaves you in a place questioning your own place on that journey, or your own place in that system, or otherwise, and therefore you don't always get the punchline or the big huzzah moment of success, because I think I've been to a cinema where I've seen one of those before as well, and you go away going, oh my gosh. But in that kind of driving home, or once you're at home, you kind of go, oh, actually, you know, this is what they're trying to say in this, and that like the ball finally drops, so I kind of get that. I think it's just not necessarily my narrative preference,
Well, like,
but
I think if you don't enjoy it, don't watch it.
Don't
But
do
like,
it. Yeah.
I think sometimes horror can be a genre that's kind of thought of as being trashy or thought of as being somehow immoral. And like, as much as I do think like horror can be found, it's not a guilty pleasure for me. I think that there's nothing wrong with being somebody that likes blood and guts and gore and murders and terrible things happening. Like, I enjoy that stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying it. Lots of people enjoy it. Most of them are not terrible people. Like, horror is one of, I think, the least toxic fandoms out there.
Nice.
You know, and I really like resent the idea that people kind of make out like I'm some kind of like monster because because I want to watch like beheadings and eyes being gouged out and things. And I'm just into that.
Just floats my boat.
But I think that like not everybody is like some people love to watch really, really sad movies all the time, that kind of like sort of grief porn stuff. And I like to watch sad movies when they're good, but I find that affects me much more deeply. Like when I went to see the Guillermo del Toro stop motion Pinocchio, it's so sad. And honestly, I didn't feel right for days. Like the
Yeah,
same
really
with The
knocks
Boy and the
you.
Heron, the same with Hamlet. And I go, sometimes I want that intensity of experience. But I do sometimes like the next day wake up and I don't feel right. And actually I am quite sensitive to that stuff. Whereas like, kind of like, murder 1,000 people with a chainsaw and I'm fine.
Yeah, pins in your face, all good.
Oh, as many as possible in the eyeballs. Yeah,
Right there.
definitely.
And on that note, yes, if I realise we're coming into land, we're coming to end. But if people were interested, would there be a film that you would recommend that you kind of edged out into the boat of horror genre or otherwise? It doesn't have to be.
I think do have a look at Does the Dog Die? But I think a really kind of what I think is now a classic, but it's very soft horror, but with themes of queerness and neurodiversity and family, what it means to be a family. I'd go for the Swedish Let the Right One In. I think it's an incredible film. It's got some scary moments, but it's not kind of scare all the way through.
Can you just say that name again?
Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In. Cool.
Brilliant.
With vampires.
Thank you. Vampires are the best. I'm left pondering about the faith that speaks to our geekery and how Jesus told some really gory stories sometimes. But he always told stories, didn't he? I'm thinking about the visitors to the vineyard who all got killed, and then also his son got killed. And I'm thinking about bearing the pain and the cost of the crucifixion, and I'm thinking about what it means for Jesus to have saved us anyway from sin and from the stuff that was bad. And the only way to do that was to get stuck in with that somehow in order to redeem us. And I don't think we're far away from horror genre speaking to us about our faith there at all, especially that sense of it being parable, that sense of it being, we're going to connect with a profundity around this. I love that.
I mean,
It's brilliant.
also like fear is the main thing that leads us into temptation, isn't it? Like,
Absolutely.
most of our kind of most of our sin comes
It's because
from
we're scared. Yeah,
comes from, kind of responding in fear rather than responding in love. And
definitely.
I think unless we can kind of like be aware of our own fears and how they guide us and
Absolutely.
and confront them, and I'm not saying that I'm doing this every time I watch a horror film,
Sure.
but like I think kind of something about being in touch with the kind of things that we are deeply afraid of and how they guide our actions, like is a really kind of faithful response to living in a world where maybe there's not like spooky demon ghosts and kind of like zombie murderers and all that kind of stuff, but there is kind of real evil and injustice, and
Every
kind
time
of
you say there's not zombie murderers, I'm like, you don't know that. You don't know. Zombies could be real, but that's just me. I think that's absolutely profoundly true that we're able to face fear and then able to be redeemed from it, and that is a journey that, unless we go through, will be lost in the mire. That is absolutely, excellently true. Thank you so much, Abbie. Come back and see us again, because we'd like to talk more about horror and also anything else that you are geeking about at any point.
I always love to
And
talk about horror.
we'll definitely do a horror part 2. In fact, this in itself could be like a horror like subgenre that it like this could be like Faith and Geekery horror part 1, and then we just keep coming back to it part 15 next year. Like, I love it. Okay. It has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for visiting, and come back soon. And for everybody who's listening, geek along really safely this week. Don't forget to join the Discord. Don't forget to do the win a competition, and we will see you next week for our end of term party.
We've got Epoch, and then the
Listen
end of
along to
term
Epoch.
party.
Come along live next week. Is that right? Next week or the week after?
Epoch next week, then
Epoch
end
next
of
week.
thing after.
And then
Yeah.
after that, come along and listen to our end of
We
term party.
we did so well.
Good
We
job,
did
you're
so
here,
well. Bye bye.
Bye.